I started my love affair with Leicas and the M11 line a few years ago when I rented the M11 and took it to Nashville. There's something so special about creating with a camera that feels so similar to the film cameras I learned on, and bringing that form factor into the digital landscape has really brought me a lot of joy as a photographer. So when Leica announced the M11-D, I was intrigued, but honestly more curious about what an M11 camera would be like without an LCD screen. Leica has a history of doing things that might leave others scratching their head, like removing an LCD screen, especially when cameras nowadays come with more and more features. The M11 is already a very bare bones mechanical digital camera. It seems like Leica has two main passions. And the first one is bridging the gap between old school analog, what has really made them famous, and bringing that into today's context for photographers. They also have this seemingly never-ending quest to make things feel more exclusive, more unique, and almost even like there might be a small barrier between the user and the camera itself. Speaking to the first point, I feel like they've always done a great job bringing their iconic brand, their iconic form factor to today's context. And speaking to the second, I feel that a lot of those barriers outside of price are sometimes self-imposed and often perceptions of what we as photographers assume is out there. The M11-D is a 60 megapixel full frame camera. There's no internal stabilization. And like I said before, there's no LCD screen, which in a modern context is confusing. Another thing worth mentioning is that the M11-D doesn't have any video capabilities, which from my perspective is actually a very welcomed experience. I'm not tired of hybrid cameras because they get the job done and they can produce beautiful results, but I am often excited when camera companies known for their photography hone in and do just that. I'm still waiting for an X100 line from Fuji that is only photo focused. I recently got back from a trip to Portland, Maine, and I brought the M11-D with me, and I wanted to share with you my experience today. All right, welcome to beautiful, sunny, cloudy Portland, Maine. We're getting away for a few weeks to take a truly special camera out for a spin, one of my favorite cameras of all time, and I wanted to bring you all on the journey and share the experience. We woke up for sunrise this morning because there's just one really iconic spot to start off the entire trip on that we need to capture, and I'm really excited to put this camera through its paces. So here's something I do find a bit odd about the M11-D is that in a world where I crave an LCD screen, not only to be able to look at my images, but also to make settings and changes and adjustments as I go, I don't have that. And you might be saying, well, yeah, get used to it. This is how we used to take photos. This is the film world. Yeah, I get that. But within this camera is an M11 brain and a processor. And so we have to figure out, okay, how do we go from JPEG to RAW and things like that? Now, my hunch is that we do that with our iPhones or our cell phones. But for today's very first shoot, an expedition with the camera, I'm just gonna go and set up and start taking photos and see what we get back at home. Glory, this is so beautiful out here. Just take a moment to appreciate this together. That is truly something else. I'll never tire of a rangefinder camera. To be completely honest with you, I love it. And using this 28 frame, we've got quite the options for a lovely composition and photograph here. Now I do hope that when it comes to looking at these photos in our Lightroom that I nailed my exposure. I do have a traditional arrow, middle dot and arrow to signify if I'm left of center, right of center, or something else. But just a little bit of a closer vantage point here to get the lighthouse and some more of its glory. What I'm loving is the clouds blocking that harsh light, giving me a little bit of a softer cast is quite nice. I don't want those highlights to be too blown out, if you know what I'm saying. And of course, as soon as I say something about the light, here it comes. But maybe I can drop down to ISO 64 and kind of hit that, underexpose it, and let the sun and shadows creep up in post. That looks nice. It does feel like I'm really hyping up Leica here, but I will say that out of all of the photo apps, they also have the best one. Efficient. So within the Leica Photos app is actually how you set a lot of the features that you're used to utilizing on other cameras. So I have lens detection, so it's going to determine what lens I'm using just automatically. I have drive mode. I'm going to put it on continuous low speed. Noise reduction is on. That's fine. I'm actually probably going to turn that off. Exposure metering, shutter type, hybrid electronic mechanical. We're going to leave it on hybrid for right now. White balance is on auto white balance. I will leave it at that for now. DNC resolution, large. So that's lovely to know that all of your settings and all of your basic camera controls are here on the phone, which is a plus and minus. I mean, it's a bonus because, again, you get to keep your camera nice and clear and keep it simply about taking photos, much like the days of film. But it's not convenient. Can't look at my photos afterwards. Can't adjust my exposure on the fly visually. I have to just go along with what my light meter tells me and what my instincts are telling me, which if you haven't taken a lot of photos, if you haven't tried to shoot meterless, that will be a challenge. A lot of film photographers do that, but for others, yeah, it'll be tricky. I think when the camera first came out, a lot of people just kind of got mad because the idea of a almost $10,000 digital camera being so limited, without a screen, without the modern day features that we're used to, I get it. I get why you'd be upset. Like, how dare Leica? I think people sometimes feel like it might be a money grab or a even pretentious move. But there has to be something said about the love of film photography with the quality, the consistency, and the ease of use of a digital camera. And I really do like that they've tried that. Just like I would love Fujifilm to release a vertical centered camera, I think that would be phenomenal. I want people to try weird things, and this is something that is to be expected while also staying a little bit strange. So the first stop in Acadia has been lovely. And as I'm navigating these rocks, I wanted to break down a few things that I've figured out about the M11-D that are unique to this camera, this digital film camera. Obviously, you know that I'm utilizing the back for ISO change, but it does have this dial back here, and I was really curious as to what that actually does. And so as I was flipping through the settings and actually looking through the viewfinder, I noticed that it actually shows me my ISO setting currently, as well as my exposure compensation. So if I'm looking at 0.0, it'll show me with a click of a button. If I'm exposing to the right or to the left, it will show me that value as well, which is really nice. If you're one of the many who thinks it's ridiculous to remove an LCD screen from the back of a camera while also almost charging $9,500, I can't blame you. That's a very interesting choice and seems to kind of bar a lot of people from using this camera. That's expensive. There's no way around it. The M11 truly is a strange camera to choose if you're looking for efficiency in regards to your photo taking experience. Now, while the controls are intuitive, they are difficult to uncover initially. You have a sense of what button is supposed to do, and you assume that if you long press here or rotate here that things will fall into place like they normally do, but it's a lot of guesswork, especially if you don't look at a manual. If you're anything like me, you definitely don't do that, and that's on us, but at least we're in it together. As a photographer, I would never try to convince you the M11-D is the right camera for you. It's not like the Q3 or the X100V or the A6700, where you can simply whip your camera around and take photos. This is the way that we've grown accustomed to doing things. Obviously there's precision and there's art in that craft, but the speed at which we're used to when utilizing these cameras cannot be met by the M11-D. But if you're taking a leisurely stroll through a wooded glen, hiking up a mountain, spending time slowly on vacation, and you are longing for that true film experience without having to develop rolls of film, I don't know if you can get closer than this, which is why when I thought of the title for this video, I did call it that. The expectedly annoying, frustrating, slow, confusing camera that surprisingly was a joy to use. That's my experience with the M11-D. I will see you all in the next one.